Welcome back. Here we go again. It's the third episode, third host here, and third guest as well. Today we are with Julia Piesco, which is representing Silicon Valley Study Tour, and we'll be here with a new guest, which I guess you are going to present to us, right?
Yeah, of course. So our guest tonight is Luca Pignatti, founder at Fido Ventures, the first startup studio that connects Italy to the world. So we will ask him a few questions about startup studios, and let's welcome Luca.
Hi everyone. Hi, nice to
Hi,
meet you.
nice to meet you too. How are you?
Very
First
good,
off.
thanks.
Great. That's good. So, as I said, you're the founder of Fido Ventures, right? So, the first startup studio that connects Italy to the world. Wonderful. Just like Silicon Valley connects Italian talents to the Silicon Valley. So, that's actually amazing. First of all, I wanted to ask you a question. So, can you tell us more about what exactly is a startup studio and what is the difference between startup studios and incubators or accelerators?
Sure. No, it's a very good question because obviously startup studio is it's a model which is existing since a while, especially in the US. It's pretty new in Europe and especially in Italy. So there's a bit of confusion about what it really is, how it works, and what are the differences with incubators and accelerators or venture capital. Because as I will tell you, there's a link also with venture capitals. The reality is that on top of these, you can structure your startup studio in many different ways. So it's a model that is very flexible, and it has a lot of nuances that allow the founder to shape it the way they want. The main differences I would tell you is that we are entrepreneurs ourselves. So a startup studio is a factory of startups. Many times the ideas for new startup come from the startup studio itself, so from the partners, or may come also from outside, from entrepreneurs that may decide to join the startup studio. But the relationship between the founders and the startup studio itself is always as co-founders. So it's not a service, it's not something that you do for a few months as you could do in incubator or accelerators, but it's a relationship that tends to last for the life of the startup. And for us, this is very important. It's a big difference that we want to highlight. This means obviously that we have a lot of skin in the game, that we need to be very selective on the startups that we decide to launch and continue to work with, and that we need to add value ourselves to the startups we decide to work with.
Yeah, and that actually gives me a heads up for the next question, because what I wanted to ask you is, as I understand, you both select startups, but you also scout for talents to create your inner teams. What do you look for in a startup that applies at Fido, and what do you look for in individual talents?
We mainly look for three things. First of all, the talent itself. So understand if, in the case that someone comes to us with an idea, the quality of the person and the professional, both on technical skills and soft skills. As you know, building a startup is not an easy task. You need to have at least a lot of passion and resilience to try to do that. So that's obviously the first thing we do. The second thing is the idea. So basically understand on one side if we can help. We have no interest in working on something where we cannot add value. Our business model is to help the startup in the long run. We're not there to do a tactical activity for a few months, so we need to be sure that we can add value. And thirdly, that's something we will do then together in the first steps. Once the startup enters in the startup studio is validating the business idea. So we need to be sure that the problem identified or the opportunity identified is interesting and big enough to be pursued.
Okay, that's awesome. I hope people are writing these down. Just kidding. When you create your inner teams, do you already have the ideas for them to develop, or is it something like you create together? Like, how does it work?
Well, as I told you, there are many ways you can structure your startup studio. In our case, we have an hybrid model, I would tell you. So we have roughly 50% of our startups come from idea generated within the startup studios. And then we found co-founders that could help us building the ventures. The other 50% actually were entrepreneurs. They came to us and asked our support to build their startup. So in both cases, we always support our project in looking for other co-founders or advisors or partners they need to have at the beginning of their venture. So that for us, that's very important to try to understand who is in the team at the initial stage and what they need to maximize their chances of success. And obviously the team of Fidel, the partners, we're 16 right now. We all work transversely or horizontally on all the startups with our specific skills. Then when we need to add people, co-founders to the different startups, we look what we need to find. So if it's an expert in the industry, we go and look for an expert in the industry. If it's a designer, then a designer. If it's a CTO, then a CTO. Very much, we're very flexible on that. As I said, our size right now allow us to be very hands-on on our startup and tailor our support according to what they need in that specific moment.
Nice. And so what do you think are the advantages for a startup or a co-founder to join a startup studio instead of, founding a startup in a more, let's say, traditional way?
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely. Well, the key fact, obviously, you enter in an ecosystem. You're not on your own. You can access to a whole lot of knowledge base, of skilled people, of network. Very important. We're working a lot on building our networks of tech partners, of advisors, of fundraising partner. And that's something you basically get by just accessing the startup studio. There's a whole lot of economies of scale, if you want, that you can access by just entering the program, even if it's not a program. But obviously, there's a lot of value added in that. And especially in an ecosystem like the Italian one, for instance, which is not as easy, if you want, or as developed as the American for startups, you have a nice bubble where you can, be a bit protected from difficulties you could find in the open market, let's say. So even just supporting with how to create your company or how to legal stuff, accounting, that's something that comes very handy for a young startup.
Yes, definitely. And so what would you say is the relationship between a startup studio and its let's say co-founders or startup teams with the investors and firms?
You mean what's the relationship between us and the co-founders or the outside world?
Yeah, meaning with other stakeholders, like for example investors or firms, for instance. Like, do you have project with firms as well? Do you do open innovation projects or?
We don't do open innovation project right now.
Okay.
We are not close to that. We are definitely considering for the future. For the moment, we just decided to to start with our own ideas. very open to have industrial partners for a specific startup. We do have a few of them. The way we work with them and with our co-founders is, again, it's very similar to the way you would work with your co-founders in your startup. So we decide together we need to find a partner, or a partner presents itself, and we decide together that it's a good opportunity to work with them. So it's very specific to the startup needs and to the maturity level of the project. There's not one recipe that fits all the situations.
Yes, indeed. And this is a more, let's say, generic question related to startups and, let's say, the place that they're at in this moment in Italy. So my question is, what do you think are the main pain points that Italian startups face in today's economy?
Funding, as you may guess. Definitely, there's an issue with funding. The VC ecosystem is improving a lot. We are seeing definitely signs of improvement. Still, it's difficult for a young startup to start from scratch. There are very good programs, especially supported by government as well, that help you bootstrap your company. But still, I think it's difficult. We don't have maybe a strong business angel community. Maybe because we're a bit more risk adverse still than in other countries. Maybe because the opportunities are not many, so the few business angels that are out there, they're able to to pick startups which are already generating revenues and big enough. But the reality is that if you don't have the right metrics, it's difficult right now in Italy to have someone investing on you just on the idea or the team and the potential it can have. So that's definitely one of the issues, which again it's improving, but still I think it's felt as a pain point for Italian co-founders. And the second one obviously is because obviously there's always the other side of the coin, which is also the fact that Italian talents and startups, they're still very young. They're many times they're not being exposed to startup ecosystems such as the one in the US or Northern Europe, and for investors as well. They are less appealing than American startups, for instance. So even just the way the founders need to learn how to communicate, how to show the investors their progresses. There may few little things that still need to improve on the startup side as well. So it's not only because of investors, of course. There's also, so it's it's a young ecosystem still. Unfortunately, it didn't develop as it should have in the past 10 years, and we're feeling these in the ecosystem.
Okay. And so I know, because I've seen it on your LinkedIn profile, that you've lived in 5 different countries and visited over 50. So where do you think there is more opportunity for a startup to have success?
That's a good question. I was trying to count now. Is it 5? Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Yes.
I read that, so if it's wrong, it's not my fault.
No, definitely. No, to be honest, I mainly lived in Europe, so I don't have direct experience of the American market, for instance. Which obviously, it's not me that have to say what's the best environment or ecosystem. I guess is the one which is performing best, which is the American one, the Israeli one, so definitely the German one. So the Nordics are doing very good. So Sweden, Norway. definitely. But I think there's a lot of potential in Southern Europe, to be honest, for two main reasons. Three, maybe. The first one is that obviously it's still very much untapped. There's a lot of potential to be expressed. Second is because the movement, is starting to, people are starting to move. Talents are definitely there. I don't have to. I mean, I've lived abroad for the past 15 years. I know what, for instance, Italians abroad, Italian expats are capable of, and I think that's a fact. The creativity, the passion, and the entrepreneurship and entrepreneur spirit that we have, or Spaniards do have. It's something that will at some point grow and come to market. And third, obviously, I think even the ecosystem themselves, so the governments and the public institutions, are starting to realize that they need to support their innovation ecosystems. In Italy, for instance, we've seen a lot of opportunities coming from the CDP ventures, from Invitalia, from the government, actually, investing a lot of money directly into the Italian ecosystem. So I am positive that something will happen in the next 5-10 years.
Would you suggest to somebody that wants to start this entrepreneurial road to go abroad and have some experience? Or do you think they should stay, go, and maybe come back? What do you
You hear me?
I'm sorry, was it just me, or everything went black? Hello?
Sorry, I think I lost you for a few seconds. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Can you hear me now, Julia?
I think you're delayed.
Am I delayed now? I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, yes, me as well. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now? Good?
Yes, I can hear
Okay.
you. Yes. Okay, so
you were asking if founders should go abroad and or try to stay in Italy, I guess, or make some experience abroad. Well, I would tell you, obviously, no, do it in Italy, do it with Fidel. No, apart from jokes. I value a lot the experience I've done abroad. As I said before, we're working a lot with Italian expats around the world, US, UK, Germany, because obviously, yes, going abroad opens your horizons, makes you understand, how different cultures, different ecosystems work. Definitely, it's a good thing that I like everybody to do that. Now, do you need to go out to create your startup? I don't think so right now. I think there's the potential to grow your startup in Italy. I do think that you need to have, and you need to be really careful of your network, international network. That's why what you said before, Fidel, the startup studio connected to the world. For us, it's a value to have an extensive network all over the world. It doesn't make sense to be the startup studio from Milan or wherever and stay in your region forever. We want to be open to ideas from outside, from talent from outside, investors from outside. Why not? So I would suggest that if you are in Italy right now, it's a good moment to try and do your venture here. And then you always are in time to, always you need always to have in mind that your horizon is not the Italian market, of course, but is the global one. So
yeah,
definitely.
that's definitely true. Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to ask you if you could tell us about a few case stories about your startups that you had, maybe some that went really well and some that didn't go as you imagined. Um,
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we're very young. We launched in September 2020, so obviously we don't have this long history of successes or, unfortunately, failures. But obviously, we did have our fair shares of experience during these 14 months now during COVID. So it's been particularly interesting.
yeah.
But definitely, we did have, for instance, this year, as I was mentioning, we actually managed to launch 20 startups. So, Julia, can you hear me now? Or? Yes, because I
Yes,
lost you
sorry,
for.
I don't know what happened.
No worries. We do have 20 startups in the portfolio. So during these 14 months, we actually worked pretty hard building new projects and bringing them to market. For instance, we closed 3 fundraising together with our co-founders. So 3 of our projects already have raised money and are now, whether they're building the product or they are changing their business model or they are gaining traction in the market. On the failure side, yes, at the beginning, for instance, on some, we had to close a couple of projects because we realized we started focusing more on the solution and the product than actually understanding really the problem and the need of our future customers. So we did have to close 2 projects for this reason. But for us, that's completely normal. It's part of our roadmap, in fact, of our ways of working. Just to say, we have decision gates every few weeks, and we need to decide if we want to continue with the project, pivot, or close the project completely. Because as I mentioned, we invest directly in startups. We cannot afford to have projects which are not growing as they should in our portfolio. So it's a hard task, but we need to do it.
What kinds of startups do you have? Is it just digital, startups, or what do?
Yeah, it's 95% digital, I would say. We have one product which is half digital, half physical product. But yeah, we're very much focused on digital products, especially obviously mobile apps, web apps, software as a whole, and we are specific on. We're working a lot on industries where Italy is strong at. So our main investment thesis is on art, culture, design, food, tourism, and entertainment. So these 2 macro areas, I would say, are our main industries. And we always do digital products, innovative, whether we use AI or blockchain or just the fact of doing a mobile app. We don't do deep tech, so it's not. It's more application of existing technologies, and obviously all the go-to-market processes, which many times are more important than actually the product itself, if you want.
Okay. I wanted also to ask you this question. So we talked about startups. What if someone wanted to follow a similar path to yours and found not only a startup, but a startup studio? What should their first steps be?
Get themselves checked. No, apart from jokes. No, I think you need to, first of all, I don't think you can do it on your own. Even when you start, to be honest, it's something that it's difficult, especially if, I mean, you can do it in two different ways, right? You can do it as we did, so bootstrapping, starting from scratch with no money, with only our resources, and basically convince people to work with us.
Okay.
And that's tough. That's tough. That's the hard way. But what you would need to have is a lot of resilience, a lot of passion, and I would say have at least a co-founder with you. Doing this alone, I don't think it's possible. We were the three of us when we started, so you can lean on each other. You can find a lot of both technical and psychological support if you want. So that's definitely one way. The other way, which is used many times, is basically have someone that can give you financial backing. You have your few euros or dollars in the bank account, and then you go and find the best talents you can find look for the best talent you can find in the market. So definitely, if you want to do that, and I encourage you to do it, because it's a very nice experience. But you need really to, you can't really stop at the first obstacle, and you need to try and expect a lot of failures and a lot of opinions, feedbacks, and be ready for that.
Yeah, that's so very true. Did you already have experience in founding, a startup?
Yeah, I've worked. Well, mainly during my life, I worked in. Well, I'm an engineer. I am materials engineering. But I actually always work in the aerospace. So I did 9 years in Airbus, moving a bit around Europe. But I've always done not really the engineer. Always done the project manager, program manager, general management, and then I get into innovation management. So I worked for a while in the Biz Lab as well. So got in touch with some of the innovation activities within Airbus. Then joined Lorenzo, my co-founder, supporting him on his first startup, which was in the travel industry. And from there, we decided to, with him and with Marco, the other co-founder, to launch the startup studio, but without really knowing what we were doing. We were just, we just said to ourselves, why don't we create a model where we can get support from other founders and launch more than one startup at the same time. This was our initial idea, and then we found out that it's actually called the startup studio or venture builder. We didn't see the model somewhere else, and we decided to apply it to Italy. It came pretty naturally, organic, as you in digital marketing like to say. But yeah, it was that's how Fidel started, really.
Nice, very nice. And what do you think? I mean, what do you say would have been the most difficult challenges that this project gave you?
Well, definitely creating the team and the teams. So again, bootstrapping requires a lot of persuasion, a lot of it's so easy to find the right people, convincing them to work with you. So that definitely and also, as I told you before, talent is the most important thing. So we really dedicated a lot of time to this activity to complete our team and to complete and to find the first founders. So definitely this is the first task that basically in 2020 was our main activity, onboarding project, onboarding people, and kickstarting operations. And then obviously today is fundraising, which is very time consuming, and we both do it for all our startups, as I mentioned before, but we also do it now for Fidel itself. And of course, you need to go and present a new model in a new ecosystem, in a new geography. It's not always easy to make people understand what we are building, and and why. So that's a challenge, but it's again, it's an interesting challenge because it allows you to. It's always good to get in touch with external people to get their feedback, understand how they react and what they think about what we're doing. So it's a very stimulating process, although it's very time consuming as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you have in your team or teams, as in the startups, are they all Italian people, or do you also work with people that are from other
Countries? No.
countries? Yeah.
We have people from a lot of countries. Again, the backbone, it's in Italy, but we wanted really to be open to find talents where we need to find them. The important thing is the person. Then if he speaks English or Italian, or we didn't really care. So, for instance, in the partner team, we have two guys from the US. We have one from Romania. We have guys living in Germany. So it's really a pretty international environment. And on the startups as well, we do have a couple of them which are based in the US, one in London, one as an Hungarian co-founder. So it's one Spanish. So it's pretty spread around Europe and the world. Yeah, but I guess it came, I would say, came by design, but it also came from our experience. As I said before, we're expats. We're used to being exposed to a very international environment, to really value it. And we just, it came naturally to just keep doing what we used to do in our past life. So interacting with people from all over the world.
Yes, that's very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Would you say that startup studios, or in particular your startup studio, do you feel this high competition with certain maybe incubators or accelerators, maybe American ones, for instance, Y Combinator or as such?
No, definitely. Obviously, we have a different proposition.
Okay.
At the same time, obviously, they have a brand which is to be reckoned. Obviously, Y Combinator is is top of the league, I would say. So we're not really worried about that. Actually, in some specific cases, we even encourage our startups to apply to some of these schemes if they are interesting, meaning if they actually, we think they have good performances on startups. Let's remember also that we have, again, we're not in our competition because we have a slight different approach. We're not expecting at 18 coming with a pitch and telling us, trying to sell us the idea. We really, many times we go out and look for people, or someone can come without having a complete team, and we support them completing it. So it's a bit of a different way of interacting with early stage startups and co-founders. So yeah, we're not really looking too much into that.
Into that, okay. So you're an innovation manager, okay, let's say. Can we say that you're an innovation manager?
I don't know. I guess.
I guess you can say it.
Yes.
What is innovation for you?
It's a good question. In fact, we discussed it many times with few of our partners, and it's a definition which is not that clear for me. Many times they tell you it's innovation if you have a patent. It's innovation if they not copy you, if you're protected. And from my perspective, that's something a bit. I'm not saying it's old economy, but it's at least is 1990s or 2000s. Right now, really, you can copy whatever you want. It's not
Yeah.
if it's the way you do things. It's not what you do that makes the difference from my perspective.
Okay.
It's that's why before I was saying, yeah, it's very important that the product you do, how nice it is, the design, the technology. That's something that you have to get right. But many of the times, at least in the with the kind of innovation we do, which again is not deep tech or something coming from university. It's not like that. Many times it's not the product you do, your algorithm, your mobile app, but the way you bring it to market and the way you are able to address a need that the users can have. And then again, yes, can it be copied? Yeah, probably yes, but that's not the problem right now. Hopefully, yeah, I hope that they will copy it. It means that we are very big and successful. I mean, go out now and copy Booking.com or Airbnb. Yeah, you can do it. It's just a website with few pictures. But what's behind that? There's a lot of connections with hotels and agreements and the marketing and the branding. That's more important probably than the technology they have behind their product. So for me, really, innovation is bringing something new to the market that people need or want, or they don't even know they want yet, and then be able to transmit it and to communicate it in the right way.
Yeah, I agree definitely. I also wanted to ask you, what do you think changed? What are the main things, maybe possibly, that changed after COVID? So, what did COVID do, and is it bad? Is it not bad? What can we do about it?
Well, it changed many things. I can tell you maybe what it changed for us in a way, or some things it changed in the startup ecosystem.
Yeah,
Definitely, I think from the talent perspective, many times make them realize that there's not only corporate jobs, so that you can actually value a lot working from home or being more flexible, having an environment which is more modern in a way. So, for instance, the one of startups, we received, in fact, a lot of applications from a lot of people, especially very young or in their 30s, interested in changing a bit their careers and their life by maybe not having the same activity that we're doing or same uh, mm, protected environment you can have in a corporate, but trying to do something a bit more meaningful. Not saying the corporate is not meaningful, of course, but something
yeah,
for you,
sure.
a project that you can really feel yours. And then the fact that you can work from home, or people got more used to work from home, or using webcams and video calls and Zooms, opened a lot the possibilities. Before, you need to be in the big startup hubs. If not, it was really difficult to get a phone call with a VC or
Yeah,
with an industrial partner. Right now, it's not like that. Right now, the normality is that you can talk with anyone over a Zoom call,
yeah,
and that actually opened up a lot of opportunities for countries such as Italy, for instance, where
mm,
the startup ecosystem is not as developed. So now it's pretty normal that an American VC decides to talk to an Italian or Spanish startup. Before, it was more difficult. So I think many things. It opened more possibilities, I would say.
do you
to,
think that
to,
this?
to keep it to the positives. Then, of course, there are a lot of
Yeah, of course.
negatives that came with COVID, but let's try to be
Yeah,
optimistic.
positive. Yeah. Do you think that this also opened the possibility of having more maybe partnerships with other startups or firms from other places around the world?
Definitely, exactly for the same reason I told you before. It's much more common now to talk to people that is not in your city or in your region. So yes, it's normal now to go on LinkedIn or go on Angel List, write to someone, schedule a meeting, and in half an hour you are talking to someone in Tokyo.
Yeah.
I think before was a bit less common. And on top of this, I think it also helps the fact that but right now people is going back to the office. So let's see how these things will change.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people realize that they have a lot of free time, even when they are not using 100% of their time, even when they are in or they were in the office, and they
Mm-hmm.
realize that they can actually do something else during their spare time, and this it's the first seed of then deciding to probably leave your
Yeah, take
normal,
this step.
take the step. That's exactly what I did, for instance,
Yeah.
starting part-time, and then you just decide that okay, that's what I want to do, and I take the risk, I jump,
Yeah, of
and
course.
let's see how it goes.
An assumption that usually people have about, co-founders of startups, entrepreneurs, is that if you want to be an entrepreneur or if you want to found a startup, you don't have to sleep.
I
You
sleep,
don't have
yeah.
to sleep, and you just have to work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Do you agree? Or do
No,
you?
obviously not. Obviously, I mean, there's there's this idea, and then there's the other one. You're working for your company. You decide what to do. So if you want to take a day off, so there are the two things, and none is correct. Of course, on one side, obviously, you feel a lot of pressure because you're the one that have to make things happen.
Yeah,
There's no one else in the desk at the desk next to yours.
yeah,
So if you don't do the things, then nobody's going to do them. So you really need to be proactive. And I'm not going to lie, it's taking a lot of sacrifice, and it needs a lot of sacrifice and resilience to be able to do that. Of course, it does a lot of it has peaks where you need to work all week because you're releasing a product or you have to prepare for something, and you need to work until midnight or whatever. And
mhm,
that's at the end of the day, you need to do what you need to do. But again, I think it's also very much healthy to try and find a good balance between your work life, your personal life, and your sleep time. So definitely, I wouldn't suggest to not sleep for for the duration of your startup
yeah,
launch.
I agree. I agree. So, if you had one last advice for a wannabe entrepreneur
Hmm.
today that is a young person, so with a little of knowledge of what is really going on, because something is what you hear about on what startup is and how to make a startup, what it's all about, and something is to read it and another thing totally it's to actually do it, right? So what
Yeah.
would you say it's the best key attribute that an entrepreneur has to have in order to actually be an entrepreneur?
Well, I would tell you resilience for sure, and passion at the same time. You need to be, and this connects me with the first part of your question. So, what is the advice? Is to be very open, talk to a lot of people, try to understand what they think about your idea, try to get as much as information as possible, especially talk to someone that already did it, maybe in your industry, and be open. Nobody's going to steal your idea. Nobody is starting a conversation, especially in the startup world, thinking, let's steal Julia's idea.
Yes,
I have a
exactly. I
lot of
don't know
spare
why.
time. I
Yeah,
have a lot of spare time. I don't know what to do with my life. Let
yeah,
me take.
exactly. As
Let
if, right?
yeah. let me take an idea I don't know
Yeah.
anything about and dedicate my life to it. No, it's not going to happen. And
Yes, I think that this is something that Italian people really need to hear about, because I think that really Italians really have an issue with this kind of thing, like telling your idea because you're afraid that someone is gonna steal it. Now you have proof. Even Luca says it. It's not gonna happen because of
someone told me, I can't remember who, but someone told me if they can steal your idea from your pitch deck or from a 5 minute conversation, then it wasn't a great idea.
yeah,
So
exactly. Or maybe it's better than that they did it because they definitely knew better than you what you were doing. So
yeah,
yeah,
so
I
that's
agree. I
definitely
agree.
something that, and then at the same time, obviously, when you open to the opinion of someone else, you also need to be, very aware that they may say something you don't want to hear. So that's where we go to the resilience but also the listening to what people says and maybe changing your mind. Uh, you
Yes.
know,
Don't
that's
be
why.
too attached to the project, right? To the
No,
idea.
sadly, that's also why. I mean, obviously, when you're very young, is a bit more difficult to because you don't have this set of knowledge or experience that allows you to process this information, understand what you should take, what not. But again, the whole startup thing is a matter of try, fail, learn. So I think you need to get into this spirit, not just when you do your product and you need to test it to market, but even when you're talking to people and try to get their opinion, be always open to things can fail, things can change. Maybe your idea wasn't good, maybe you need to find someone else. It's not the end of the world. That's also one thing that in Italy is not
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
very common, and
Here.
probably it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
We don't accept failure that
Yeah.
easy,
Yeah.
and that's why many times maybe we don't try, or we keep our ideas for our own, and then if you have to fail, you will fail at some point. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
No, exactly. You can learn a lot, and you can do something else. So definitely talk to people, be open, expect a feedback,
Yeah.
and be ready to change, and be ready to whatever can come your way. You need to thicken your skin, as they say.
Yes, that's beautiful. When I was in Silicon Valley, thanks to go to Silicon Valley, I remember that someone said to us that if they had to choose between two applicants for a same job, and one of them stayed at, I don't know, Facebook for 20 years doing the same job, and the other one tried making startups, failed, then had another job, and then changed into another, they would probably get this second guy because he had definitely more experience than, the Facebook guy, even though he comes from a really well-known firm. But he definitely had less experience because he had the same job for 20 years. So, he didn't have the challenge. Whilst the
Definitely.
Yeah, whilst the second person had definitely much more challenge to overcome. So that was definitely probably the person that they would choose for their company because they knew that this was somebody with experience. And I think that this in Italy, as you said before, is not very accepted much. I mean, if you fail, you are a failure, and that's it. And it doesn't in Italy, it's not socially accepted that if you fail, then you come up stronger than
No, but
before.
more importantly, if in order to fail, you need to do something in the first
Yeah,
place.
that's true. Yeah, that's
And that's
true.
something that to me takes a lot of guts, takes a lot of passion, and then
Yeah,
you need to value it. Obviously, if you don't do anything, you will never fail. That's
yeah,
that's fantastic, but that's not the game. It's so I think this is very important, and you just need to be prepared for it. Not prepared for failure. Obviously, you need to avoid failure. I'm not saying that you have to aim at failing, but it's something that can come your way. I don't want to pass the wrong message. It's not
no, of course. You have to fail.
No, but it's also, for instance, you were mentioning before competition with other incubators are concerned. I don't think that's our main competitor. Probably our main competitor right now it's corporate, is advisory firms. So the usual go-to firm for your young business professional in Italy that still, culturally still looks for your full-time job in corporate, because obviously because they need to pay their expenses, but obviously many times because it's is what your parents expect or what's correct. And as exactly as you were saying, especially if you're young, probably 1 year, 2 year experience in a startup, especially if it's yours, you can learn a lot of stuff. And then, you can have success and become rich, or change startup, or fail and go back to corporate. But still, you will have something more than someone else, that not many people had.
Yes, that's
so 1 year leading your project, you learn stuff that you wouldn't learn in probably any other full-time job, especially if junior. So it's a very valuable experience that I think I encourage young people to do.
Try.
Try. If it was me, I would have started before.
As for myself, I tried to launch a startup with a physical product. Then unfortunately with COVID, some custom habits changed. So it was a bit of an issue, but I learned so much from that experience, and it was like maybe 2 years of experience, but it taught me so much. And actually, I graduated in product design, and after that experience, I understood that maybe I was more interested in marketing than I was in product, and so I changed my path. So maybe it can be useful as well to better understand yourself, because if you're in charge of a project, it means that you're in charge of it 360, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you can also have the perspective of the employer, or the boss, if you want.
Yes.
And that makes you realize a lot of things. Before you were complaining for this, for that, and the salary, and then you actually realize, I didn't know this. Even trivial stuff, say, how much does it really cost to hire a guy or a girl in a company in Italy, especially? Also, okay, and I understand why it was that expensive. So there are many few things that you really learn by just moving to the other side of the table, and so it's very interesting, definitely.
Thank you. Well, I believe we're done with the questions. It was very, very insightful talking to you, Luca. I hope that also people from home found it as insightful and interesting as I did. I definitely did, and I thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
I invite Michele to the podium.
Thank you for inviting me back. It's been a really nice chat, so thank you as well, Luca, and I hope that people can take inspiration from your case and from what you taught us today, because it was really, really nice to listen to you for this hour. If everyone wants to see these speech again, they can do it online. So if you missed a bit, you can go back and study. and yes, really thank you.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, guys, for the opportunity. And obviously, if on top of looking to the video again, if anybody wants to get in touch, feel free to get in touch on LinkedIn or by email.
I will definitely reach out to you, Luca.
Fantastic. I'm expecting your message then.
Great.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Today is actually the last day of this crowdfunding campaign we launched around a month ago. Tonight is gonna be the real launch of the of the platform. So if every one of you wants to follow us and see what we're doing, you can do it by coming back here on Rinascita Digitale, on our social medias, or wherever you want to follow us to see what we have for you. So if you want to see what we have for you, see you later. Live streaming. Bye.